So there was some huge news to come out of Florida at a convention this weekend. Of course, I'm referring to Super RetroCon in Miami. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Let's talk about Star Wars! Star Wars Celebration happened April 13th to 16th in Orlando, and it was not disappointing in the wealth of news and information. I'm going to be covering the con itself over on the Trash Compactor podcast for the May episode, but there's something I have to delve into detail on. We got our first trailer and teaser poster for The Last Jedi, and speculation is running rampant as to what this means.
It's time for the Jedi to end.
There has been plenty of speculation as to what the title of The Last Jedi means in terms of Luke. And I think that this line adds a whole new dimension to the discussion, so we're trying to figure out why Luke thinks this and what it means for the future of him, Rey, and Kylo Ren. The Jedi have been portrayed differently in all of the different eras of Star Wars. When we first hear about them in the original trilogy, the only Jedi left are Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda. These two are portrayed as slightly flawed, but they were for the most part paragons of goodness. Luke doesn't actually spend a great deal of time with either of them before they die, because the Jedi Order has been dismantled for the most part. He experiences the faith of the Jedi, but not the religion. Then when we see the prequel trilogy, we see the flaws of the Jedi Order are even greater than we could have ever imagined. It's a very strict system that is tied into the political machinations of the Republic. While ultimately it is Vader who is responsible for his own downfall, the Jedi failed Anakin numerous times along the way. There is no way that it is all right to tell a 10-year-old former slave who has been forced to leave his mother that it's wrong for him to be scared. In The Force Awakens, the Jedi are even more mysterious than in the original trilogy. We don't see a Jedi until the last moments of the movie. We find out through Han that Luke has been trying to find out where the Jedi originated. This is backed up by books like the Aftermath trilogy and Bloodline, which talk about Luke essentially leaving the New Republic in order to revive the Jedi Order. I think what has happened in the time between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens is that Luke has kind of discovered what the Jedi actually were before Order 66. Obi-Wan and Yoda weren't really good barometers as to what the Order was like. It's also possible that Luke blames the teachings of the Jedi for what happened to Ben Solo. Luke tried to instruct his nephew the best way he could with the Jedi teachings, but then he realized the flaws that the Jedi had, as Ben fell the exact same way that Anakin Skywalker had. Even if you look at the old expanded universe, now Legends, Luke has always played with what he chooses to use from the Jedi teachings. The new Jedi Order was quite different from the ancient Jedi Order. The movies are just taking that a step further, that something else entirely needs to be set into place. This is also something that has been building through Star Wars Rebels. We have Force users like Ahsoka, Kanan, Ezra, and Bendu, who are not really Jedi. Kanan and Ezra do identify as Jedi most of the time, but both of them experiment with teachings outside of the Jedi, with both learning from the Bendu and Ezra using the Sith holocron. Ahsoka is an even better example, being completely disillusioned by the Jedi Order. She is, without a doubt, a Force user, and one who developed her powers as a Padawan learner, but she rejected the title of Jedi. This brings up the Legends concept of the Grey Jedi. It's not been properly reintroduced into the canon, but they've been flirting with it for years now. Grey Jedi utilize skills from both the light and the dark side of the Force, and distance themselves from the Council. While most Grey Jedi have been relegated to non-canonical status, there's one who definitely is, and that's Qui-Gon Jinn. He did not identify himself as Grey, but most of the Jedi Council saw him as such, and that's actually why he was never asked to join the Jedi Council. Rather than being bothered by the politics of the Council, or the Jedi Code, Qui-Gon focused on the living Force and his spiritual connection to it. In the current canon, we have characters such as the Bendu that are firmly identified as falling between the light and the dark side, concerned with balancing the Force completely. While Anakin was prophesied by the Jedi to bring balance to the Force, the balance was supposed to bring the destruction of the Sith, which is not true balance at all. Except perhaps it was. When Darth Vader killed Darth Sidious, himself dying in the process, the last of the old orders were destroyed. The only Force users we knew of were Luke and Leia. Leia had no Force teachings and had just barely discovered that she even had those powers, and Luke had only had a bare minimum of training. He had no inkling of the political nature of the Jedi Order. He was also shown in Return of the Jedi to utilize dark side abilities, such as the Force Choke. He went against the Jedi Code with the idea that Anakin Skywalker could eventually be redeemed. What does all of this mean for The Last Jedi? Daisy Ridley said at Celebration that Rey will learn that meeting your heroes is not always what you expect. Rey at this point believes in the Jedi. She only knows the myths of great heroes. Luke has been living with the reality of being a Jedi for over 30 years, and it has been a path that has cost him and those he loves a great deal. In The Force Awakens, Rey is portrayed as an angry young woman. She is hardened by her time living on Jakku, and her instincts are to rebuff BB-8 and attack Finn. I believe this is something we will see more of in The Last Jedi. There is also the mystery as to Rey's parentage and the source of her powers. As established in Aftermath: Empire's End, by the way, spoilers, go and read the books, they're awesome. Jakku was used by the Emperor to study Sith artifacts and the unknown regions of space. The exact details of Sidious's plans are unknown, but we do know that he had no desire for the Empire to survive him, leaving a contingency in the event of his death that would destroy the Empire, his research, and even his home planet of Naboo. But we also know that Sidious's plans were stymied by both the Rebellion and the nascent First Order under the command of Rey Sloane. 2 characters named Rey? They're spelled different, but that is peculiar. Look at the teaser poster of Rey. While she is extending Anakin Skywalker's blue lightsaber, it ends up morphing into a red lightsaber beam, which is connected to the dark side of the Force. As part of Rey's hero's journey, she must be tempted by the dark side. She has already had an invitation to study the dark side, but she rebuffed it immediately. Her stumbles will be even harder because she has already resisted it. And then there's Kylo Ren. The villain of our piece has already shown reservations in his own capacity for darkness. He participated in horrendous acts in The Force Awakens, such as his tacit approval of the destruction of the Hosnian system and the murder of his father, but he was portrayed as regretting both of these decisions via subtle acting from Adam Driver, backed up by text from the novelization. Since The Force Awakens came out, I've stood by my beliefs that Kylo Ren will eventually be redeemed, probably starting at the end of The Last Jedi. With everything that the Skywalker family has gone through, I can't believe that the last scion of the family would die an unrepentant killer, or even as part of a redemption arc. I feel my hypothesis is bolstered by the scar Kylo Ren is portrayed as having post-duel. While I'm not a fan of the beauty equals goodness trope, it's one that is used heavily in fiction, including Star Wars. That Kylo Ren is being portrayed as having minimal scarring, and it looks like he's abandoned his helmet, I'd say we are on our way towards a redemption arc. We don't know quite what will happen in The Last Jedi or Episode 9, but I'll exhibit absolutely no shock if we end up with neither Jedi nor Sith, light nor dark, just people who respect and wield the Force. So that's this week's episode. If you liked it, like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to hear more about my Star Wars feelings, check out the Trash Compactor podcast, which updates the first Monday of every month. And I've also got Return to the Hellmouth, which is a Buffy rewatch podcast, and that updates every Tuesday. And so I'll see you guys next week.